Hey, what's up guys, it's Hayden here, back at you with another video, and today I wanted to do something special, and it took a lot of prep work, but finally recording this, and it's a post-rotation deck profile for a really good deck. Not actually, I haven't tested too much, but for a popular deck known as Ultra Necrozma, Malamar. Malamar is always a good pick in an unknown meta. It never really has a lot of advantages, but it never really has a lot of disadvantages in most meta games, especially in the post-rotation meta. As well, Ultra Necrozma Malamar is a hard-hitting deck and is flexible with the Giratina, so it has a good matchup pool, and generally is a good pick for the beginning of the next format. So, to start with the deck, we play 2 Jirachi. Can you read it, Justin? And if you guys don't know, Jirachi is here for the Stellar Wish ability, and what it does is it looks at the top 5 cards and you pick a trainer card. So it's really good to get the cards you need, and it's also used as a pivot, because with Ultra Necrozma, you have to discard a lot of energy, so you have to constantly switch to use your Malamar. And then here's our main attacker, Ultra Necrozma. 190 HP means that's going to get knocked out pretty easily by the likes of the tag teams. But the positives, on the positive side, it takes 2 electro powers to kill it when you use Speaker Realm, full voltage. And besides the HP, it's a dragon type, so it doesn't really hit for weakness, but it doesn't, so that's not too great. But Fairy isn't too relevant, other than Whimsicott Walder, which seems like a rogue deck at best. So Ultra Necrozma is here for its first attack, Photon Geyser. And what Photon Geyser does is, for a metal and a psychic energy, you discard as many psychic energy you want, and you deal 80 times the amount of energies. Psychic energy is discarded. And the GX attack, if both players' total card cards are 6 or less or fewer, put 6 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon. That's pretty good. And the idea of the Ultra Necrozma is that if you get 3 energies, you're knocking out a Pikarom, and and with Giratina, you can also knock out a Mew, or Reshizard. So Giratina is in here for the first ability, Distortion Door. And what Distortion Door does, can you read the card, Justin? What Distortion Door basically does is, if it's in the discard pile, you can put it on your bench and put 10 damage counters onto your bench Pokemon. And it's really good because you can cycle it, and 2's enough for a non-GX matchup, and you can just chain them. And it's also, the Distortion Door ability is really good because it also sets up damage for Sky Scorching Light. So the Sky Scorching Light GX on the Ultra Necrozma is an auto win against Lost March, which also seems promising. And that's because you can use the Distortion Door to set up a knockout on jump lefts. And it hits 130. So if you Distortion Door a Mewtwo and then hit it, it's knocked out. The one downside to Shadow Impact, the attack I'm talking about, is that you do put 40 damage, but usually it's not really relevant because you put it on a Malamar if they're not playing spread, or if it's not the mirror match. So the Giratina in general is just really good, setting up numbers with the Distortion Door, KOing non-GXs with Shadow Impact and Mewtwo Mew. Next up, we have Gengar and Mimikyu. Gengar and Mimikyu is a tag team, so we don't really want to start it. But if we ever are down to 2 prizes, or 1, we can just put up a Gengar and Mimikyu, and with so little gust, you can force your opponent to a 7 or 8 prize card game. So it's pretty good. And what Gengar and Mimikyu GX is mainly here for the first attack, Horror House, and it's really good because if you're going second and you can get it out for turn 1. You can just attach an energy warehouse. Your opponent can't play any cards from their hand into their deck. So it basically gives you an extra turn to set up. And also, if you have 1 more energy on it, both players draw until they have 8. So that's not too good. That's good for you. And that GX attack also helps with the second attack, Poltergeist, which is 50 times the amount of M cards in their hand. So if they have a massive hand, you can just punch them with a Poltergeist. Or you can do a Horror House GX and give them an 8 card hand and then hit them with a Poltergeist. But generally, it is a little risky to play for this first attack, but it's mainly here for the GX. Now we do play the 4 Malamar, and what Malamar does is its first ability attaches a psychic energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. So this will set up our Ultra Necrozma, our Giratina, and our Gengar Mimikyu. So if we're going to swing with Ultra Necrozma, you can pretty much power it up with 2 Malamars. We need like 3 Malamars to power up a fresh Ultra Necrozma to KO something like a Pikarom or whatever. And yeah, and if we have 2 and we have Viridian Force in play, we can easily chain some Giratinas. And it's also really important for chaining that we do have the draw chain play, so we can keep getting new cards. So 4 of the Malamar. Also, it does have the 60 HP, 60 damage attack, which is like not too relevant, but you can definitely swing at an opponent's Malamar if the time comes, but in general, not too great. And then we do have the 4 Inkays, or I don't know where the 4th one went off to. Well, I have 3 in my hand, but there's 4. And the Inkay has 60 HP. It's not really too relevant, but it does have the Hypnosis attack. And I'm not going to name the player, but I do play at a lot of challenges. He plays a lot of Malamar, and he's infamous for using Hypnosis and putting your opponent to sleep. And that has been very annoying, because you can Hypnosis if you're really in a bad spot, and you can kind of come back sometimes. But yeah, 4 in case, don't know why. I only have 3 at the moment. Play an extra Ditto, just extra NK. There's not a lot of Pokemon support other than like Brock's Grit. So you really need a lot of the Ditto in there, so that if a couple Inkays go down, you can still play out the game. One to Dede change is really good. You don't want, so that late game you can get the final card you need, or early game you can set up your board. You only play 1 though, because it can be annoying and it could discard 2 valuable resources, so sometimes you might not even use Dede at all. So one's just a perfect amount. And I think one of the most underrated cards in this format is the Rangaroo. And what the Rangaroo does is its first attack, Resource Management, allows you to put back 3 cards that you want. Am I telling you a good speed, Justin?
It's good.
Wait, how much time's on there?
Just about 9 minutes.
9 minutes, that's fine. And Resource Management is really good because you can pretty much put back any card you want. So you can put back, if you run out of energy, like Mental Energies, you can put back Mental Energies, put back Ultra Necrozmas, and it's mainly in here too for the Shedinja matchup. If you guys are unsure of Shedinja, it's basically this stall deck where they basically attach a Shedinja every turn, and you can't take knockouts, take prizes. So against that matchup, you don't want to take a single knockout. You don't want to take knockouts, but instead you just want to Resource Management constantly and do not clunk up your bench too much. And yeah, against that matchup, the Shedinja player will always win, but the key here is that if you play an Oranguru against a Shedinja matchup, you can stall it out to a tie, at least. So, Shedinja matchup, I don't know, it's kind of hard to play against because you don't want to go too aggressive. So Oranguru is an easy way to just force attack. Because you can never really run out of energies. So yeah, that's the Pokemon. The one thing though is if your monkey gets knocked out, you can't get it back because I don't play the procs. So if the Shinichi player somehow uses a profound knowledge or something, then you could be in a bit of trouble. But in general, their deck's already slow to begin with. Their win condition takes a long time, so having that really stops it. Okay, so on to the trainers. We play 4 Viridian Forest. Viridian Forest is really good because it allows you to discard an energy and discard anything and get out any energy you want, so you can get Psychic or Metal, and it makes the deck really consistent. Also, you can Viridian Force away energies in your hand and get back an energy in return, and that can help set up your set up for Psychic Recharge. And Viridian Force also is a counter stadium, so you can play it down and get rid of stuff like Wanderer's Labyrinth, Thunder Mountain, and stuff like that. I'm not sure if 4 is necessary because I know a lot of decks will play Viridian Forest. Like I know the Mewtwo Mew might play it, so 3 might be good, but I like 4 because you want to get it out all the time, and it's always a good counter state option because we don't have Field Blower anymore. So it's the only, other than Marshall, it's the only real way to get the your opponent's stuff stadiums. Play 4 Lily. Lily is in there. Draw until you have 8, and the idea is you want to bench a bunch of Inkays and then Lily, and then set yourself up for the next turn. And Lily's just crazy good on the first turn for drawing until you have 8. And that's still not bad, and the other turns drawing until 6 is always pretty good. Speaking of 6, we do play Cynthia for us. Cynthia's really good because you can basically just shuffle your hand, draw 6, and it's the most powerful shuffle draw support in the format. And yeah, it just gets you the cards you need. 1 Tan Liza. It's the second best shuffle draw, but it's only 5. And I played Team Liza over the Ericas because I don't like Ericas because if your opponent's playing like a quad build like a Reshizard, they don't really bench a lot of Pokemon down anyways. So Erika's Hospitality isn't that great. And it also, Team Liza is also really good because it has the second option of switching your Pokemon if you want. But that's not too great. Play the Judge. There's no reset stamp in this deck because I feel like this deck wants to get aggressive, wants to be consistent. So I feel like a reset stamp's not too great. But it does have the option of shuffling your opponent's hand and them drawing 4, and you do the same. We also play 4 Mysterious Treasure. Mysterious Treasure's in there because it gets out any of your Pokemon except for the Dedenne and the Oranguru. And yeah, it's really good. And also can discard some energies. Play 4 Communication. Ultra Ball is out of the format, so you have to use Communication. And I guess it's okay. It's obviously not as good as Ultra Ball, because it can't discard energies, but it can get out a Pokemon. You just have to have a Pokemon in your hand to begin with. 4 Custom Catchers. Staple for post rotation. It's the only Gust effect in the format. So you want to power up your alternate Crossma and take a lot of prize cards at once. So if they're using, like if a Pikarom player is using like a Zeraora to attack, for example, you want to just bring up the Pikarom instead, knock it out, stuff like that, or whatever. Custom Catcher's pretty good, and we do play the Oranguru, so we can cycle Custom Catchers in for a little bit, stall a little bit too. And then for switching, we play the 4 Switch, so we can use Jirachi's, and Switch is basically a card like, when you use Switch and you have alternate Crossman active, it's pretty much saying, I'm going to look at the top 5 cards, choose one, and put Jirachi to sleep. That's pretty much what Switch does. And yeah, Switch is just really essential to this Malamar build. You want to pivot in between stuff and heal it and get the energies down. Sometimes your opponent might bring up a Malamar, not so much now, but last format, and you want to get it out of there. So yeah, Switch is really essential. Skateboard too. Switching into Jirachi that has a skateboard is really good. And it allows for a pivot in the deck. We do play a Beast Energy. It can be a Colorless Energy, or it can be any type for an Ultra Beast, so it's mainly for the alternate cross one. And it's going to be used mostly as a Metal Energy. But it allows you to deal 30 extra damage, so it's really good. So if you're facing like a Zapdos or like a Weezing's dead, but it's just an example, you can just discard 1 energy and deal 130. Or you can just deal extra damage, which is always good. 3 Metal Energies, just for using alternate crossbows, and 6 Psychic Energies. So that about wraps up my list. It's definitely not refined, but I did a bit of like test hands, and it is pretty good. Yeah. Now I'm going to go over some other options for the deck that may seem pretty good. Sorry, I forgot to bring this when I was recording. Okay, so another cool card is the Latios, and what it does is it has the ability Power Bind, and if your opponent has four or more, if you have 4 or less Pokemon, you can't attack. So it's not too good in that light, but generally it can be avoided. And it has the attack Tag Purge 120. This Pokemon's not affected by damage from tag teams. So I didn't really include this. And then its final attack is Clear Vision, and your opponent can't play any GX attacks. So the reason I didn't play this was because I didn't really see a lot of potential in it, because the thing is, with the Clear Vision, it's okay against Pikarom, but the scary thing is it has 170 HP, so they can always... Actually, no, never mind, that's a bad example. Because if you Clear Vision, they can't table, but if you... It's good against Pikarom to Clear Vision GX, for sure, and the attack, the 120, boss, its Tag Purge is also pretty good, but the thing is, if you start it in another matchup, it's not good. And I didn't even realize it has free retreat. That's actually pretty good. But it like, if you're facing Pikarom and you do 120, then your opponent can always retreat into like a Zero Aura and just use an E-Power and knock it out. So I don't really see a lot of potential for this first attack. And the second attack, the GX attack, while it's pretty good against Pikarom, I don't know if it's worth a bench slot. Another card that I was debating was a Mimikyu. I played Mimikyu in every single of the Psychic Malamar list I played. I really love the card, but I'm not buying it recently. So, Filch, it has a first attack Filch for colorless, draw 2 cards. It's really good because you can just Filch a couple times and there's not a lot of gust, so you can kind of sit on it. And then its second attack, Copycat, is also good too. But the awkward thing about the Mimikyu is it's not like you have Marsh Shadow, so if you bench it and it gets knocked out early, then you can't really utilize the Copycat. So you can't really sit on a Filch like he used to. So I'm not too convinced. And Copycat in general can be played around, so I don't know if it's too good. But it might be a decent inclusion, so I include it. Another Pokemon, I don't think it's very good, but I did play with it and kind of liked it. Shuckle, use the first attack ability, and it basically gets 3 energies in the discard pile, up to 3, So it's just an extra way to get psychic energies in the discard if you want to play a 3-1 line. But in general, I'm not too big of a fan. It's pretty bad starting it. And we also have a Brock's Grit. I recommend a Brock's Grit if you don't want to play the Rangaroo, or if you have extra space, because it basically shuffles 6 of any combinations of energy or Pokemon. So it's the only real way to get your Pokemon back out. And if you ever lose mental energies, you can also use Brock's Grit. So it's actually not bad. And I'm considering playing it instead of the Rangaroo. Here's the Ericas I was talking about. The Clingy Girlfriend. Not a big fan of Ericas personally. It's very variable. It doesn't. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's bad. So I didn't include it. Bills. The top 7 Pikachu cards. Seems pretty good, but again, you want to find energy, so not great. Elms can get out 3 Inks, so it's okay, but it feels a little slow. Dragon Talon's also an option, so that if your opponent hits into an alternate crosswind, they do 3 damage counters. Choice Helmet's a defensive option, so your opponent's GX is 30 less damage. Spell tags are pretty good on the Giratina. You also have the Judge Whistle to get back your 1 Judge back and to draw an extra card. Pokegear to get out a supporter. The Pokegears are iffy because you don't want to fog your hand with them. Energy Spinner, I didn't include it because we already have the Viridian, so I don't really see the point. Finally, the Pokénav. Look at the top 3, pick an energy or Pokemon, put in your hand when you range the other cards. It's okay, but stuff like Acrobite trumps it. I didn't bring the card with me, but Acrobite 2, discard a card, look at the top 2, discard 1, put the other in your hand. Beast Ring's another cool one, put 2 energies on your alternate crossman when they're behind. And finally, the Reset Stamp that shuffles your opponent's hand and they draw that number of prize cards. So, in summary, I like alternate crossbow because it has a lot of options with these different cards you can include. And in general, it can deal a lot of damage with the Photon Geyser, and also has a really good non-GX option in the Giratina. And first, it also really favors against some decks like Lost March, and it could be good against Blounds and all sorts of stuff. So it definitely does not have a lot of disadvantages in this format. Not sure if it has a ton of positive matchups, but I like alternate crossman because it can win against anything. And the one con about it is sometimes your bench can get clogged up, and sometimes you might not have enough Malamars in play. So this might be a long video. Thank you guys for watching this profile. If you want more profiles, leave a comment. I don't have a ton of cards, but yeah. Thanks for watching.